Hello, everybody. Sorry I'm late today. Um, Today we're going to be talking about grief, and I'm a little frazzled. I thought it was all set, but I forgot to set up StreamYard, so I am apologizing. First thing, and let me see. So what I'm going to do is make this full size. We're talking about what is grief today. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do each stream. We're going to go over steps of grief. And I'm not sure if I should do one step each time or if we should do 2 steps each time. So yeah, sorry about all the being frazzled and whatnot. Okay, we need to go to, there it is right there. Okay. And now it's doing all kinds of notifications. And so this first 5 minutes is really just not working out. Okay. All right. Let's see. Nobody's here yet. Hey, Joe, how are you? I am running behind, and let's see if we can get this article up. Today we're going to start with what is grief, and then we're going to do the I think there are 7 stages, so I'm not sure if I'm going to do one stage each week or a couple stage each week. Hey, Shelly, how are you doing? Let's see, share screen. Okay, there we go. So, how are you guys doing today? What's going on, StreamYard? Come on back. All right, my internet is acting weird too. So, how are you guys doing today? It's a little warmer today here. We got almost 40 degrees, like 35 something. And so, oh, I'm so glad, Joe. The snow has melted. There's a little bit of ice still outside. Can't stay long. Have a doctor's appointment at 2:45. No worries, Shelly. No worries. Joe's got 58 degrees. Ooh, for us, that would be a heat wave, right, Shelly? Can't. Oh, I just read that. So the weather's not so bad today. And I'm getting some stuff done. Like when it's freezing out, it's colder in the house, and I'm just sitting on the couch with my blankie. There's my Amazon delivery. Got some coffee, got some water. I just had lunch. That's another reason why I'm running late too. Ate lunch with the hubby. He got home early. So Shelly, not going good, but can't talk about it because don't want to cry anymore. Oh no, Shelly. Well, we haven't done a private live yet. Do you guys want to do a private live next week? Because it sounds like Shelly, hopefully you've been talking to Joe. It sounds like you need to talk to somebody. And I know you said you don't want to cry anymore, but you got to get, and I don't know if you can attest to this, Joe, but that'd be awesome. Okay, let's do that next week then. We'll do what's grief today. We'll do the private live, and then we're going to do the stages of grief. Okay. I don't know how it works for you, Shelly, but when I can't stop crying, there's a problem for me. I need to go to the doctor. I need to either talk to my therapist or get my meds adjusted. And I know you're not in any of those situations. I'm just telling you about me. So when I do cry, normal cry, I'm freezing. I'm frozen. Why am I frozen? All right. Remove Real lady electrician. Come on. Crap. I'm going to go out. How do I leave studio? Oh, you can hear me, just not see me. Okay. I think I'm going to leave the studio and come back. And I like that, Joe. You do what you want. That's right. So hopefully you guys will be fine. I'm going to go out and come back. Leave studio. Changes you made may not be saved. What? I need to leave. Add to stage. Okay. I think I'm back. Okay, let's see. You can hear me. And yeah, you do what you want, Joe. Shelly just got to deal with it. We can no birthday present needed. Okay. Okay. So we'll talk about, it sounds private, so we'll talk about it next week. We'll do a private live if you want to come, Shelly. I know we talked about some of your financial issues too. If you want to, I know there's nothing you can do about it, but and I know it's depressing. I know that. I've been through it myself. And I wasn't okay with it till I came out the other side. But when I cry, it will eventually stop. It's like the well runs dry, and then I finally feel better that it's out of me. If you're not feeling that way, you may, I mean, you can even ask your regular doctor to give you something just for the depression, just to, get you through. Nothing addictive, nothing like that. So, anyways, we're here for you, Shelly. Anything you need. And if you just want to come to the private live and not talk, you don't have, you don't have to. You can just come and listen to us and just say hi and, hang out, and you don't have to chat if you don't want to. It's a hard time for a lot of people. I wish I could fix it for Shelly. I know, Joe, it's really hard this time of year when it's your friends and there's nothing anyone can do about it. Nothing, you know. And then you have those people that are like, well, you should have done this, you should have done that. And you don't want to hear that. And, there, all kinds of stuff. So we're here for you, Shelly. Don't worry. We're here for you. And I know it's a tough thing you're going through. And, yeah, that's all I can really say is that we're here. I don't want to, it's not my story to tell. How's that? So let's see. Let me go ahead and find this article. What is grief? It was a Google search. Now, you guys have Google. So what I've been seeing is when you do the Google search for something, there's that AI right here overview, and that sometimes is pretty good because I'm an old lady. AI is not my safe place. I'm not a fan of it. I recognize it all over the place. Some of those cute little pictures that everybody posts, you can tell those are AI, and some of the commercials now, and it's coming. I mean, we have to deal with it. It's coming. But anyways, what was my point? Did I have a point, you guys? I don't remember. Excuse me. Oh, but this I think is helpful. This Google AI where they sum up everything for you. I read it and I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I really like that. So let's take a look at that right here. And I'm going to go to the other page. What is grief? This is what Google AI says. I'm going to show all of it. Okay. Grief is a natural emotional response to loss, such as the loss of a loved one, a divorce, or a serious illness. It can also be a reaction to other significant loss, like moving away from friends and family or losing a job. And for me, it was also losing a house. So the stages of grief, you don't, maybe when it's something like that, you go, well, I lost my job or my house. That's not grief, but it really is. And they've done a lot more research. Any loss, the loss of a pet, the loss of not just a loved one, but the loss of something important to you, the loss of a car. I've had a car repossessed before. Um, that was my livelihood. I couldn't get to work without that, right? So how do I make money to pay for the car if I don't, you know, um, and just the loss of anything important to you can cause grief. Grief has several levels. There is no like grief is this, that it's not like that. Grief, there's different levels to it, and the more serious the connection to the person or the place or the thing, the more grief you're going to have, the more serious your grief is going to be. If I lost a uh something that I have a necklace from my grandma that she got when she was little. So she gave it to me and I'm supposed to give it to the oldest. I don't have any grandchildren, but I'm supposed to give it to the oldest grandchild in our family. And so the loss of myself, who I was before disability, I have a lot of grief over that. Exactly, Joe. When I couldn't work anymore, that was big for me. There was a lot of grief. And I didn't lose a person, I lost a job, but it was part of my identity. Being an electrician, I was no longer a person who worked, which was instilled in me from the time I was just a small child. My dad worked all the time, every day, all day. And so that was instilled in me from being a young child. So when I had to go on disability and I didn't have a job, I felt like I lost an identity. Um, and so I would agree with you, loss of self. That's huge. That's huge. Um, but I'll tell you, at the time, I didn't recognize it as grief. We did a series a little while ago, and that helped me to see that. But that was after all the stuff happened. But yeah, grief has so many layers and levels. There's not just one way to grieve and one thing to grieve for. That's not what grief is. Um, it is it's a psychological state that we go into when we lose something, and then we have to go through different things. And everybody doesn't go through the 7 stages either. There are 7 stages, but you go through different stages of those 7. You may not go through all 7, and you may not go through them in the order that people say they occur. Let's say hi to everybody. Let's give everybody a pretty kitty hi. Mm-hmm. Say hello, everybody. I love my mama. I love. Mm-hmm. Okay, he's being good right now. But yeah, totally agree, Joe. Loss of self. And people are like, well, say you lost something, a house, a car. Well, I mean, like, why are you grieving over that? That's a thing. Get over it, but we all have different emotional needs. And like I said, grief shows up differently in all of us. And just because another person can get over the loss of a house or a car real easy, doesn't mean that I can get over it. Like when I lost my job, I heard a lot of, oh, well, now you get to sit at home and do nothing from my family. Not my close family I don't really care for. But that hurt me. because I'm like, do you think if I could work, I would just be sick? I have worked for 36 years since I was 16. And before that, I was a babysitter. I have worked all my life. Working has been an identity. So when I stopped working, I lost myself. Um, and so, yeah, Joe, thank you for bringing that up. That was a really good one. Um, and he's sidetracking me. You have to get down. Say bye bye. Bye bye, everybody. Bye bye. Gotta get down. Come on, let go. Let go. Be a good boy. Go over there. There you go. They're all staticky and I keep zapping them. Are you guys having that problem with your animals? But yeah, there's no one formula for grief, how to get over it. There isn't. I wish there were, because it'd be easy to go done. I'm all better, but it doesn't work like that. So let's take a look. See here at the. Okay. What does grief feel like? Now, these aren't the stages. These are just feelings that you have when you are grieving. Sadness, intense sadness, crying and yeaming. I don't know what that means. Yeaming. Shock, feeling numb, in disbelief, or in a state of shock. Yes. When we lost the house, I could not believe we lost the house. First, I lost the job, then we lost the house. But I was in shock. I just couldn't believe that all those things happened in that year. In that year, all these things happened just like bam, bam, bam in a matter of 6 months. Bam, bam, bam. And I was knocked to the floor. Knocked to the floor. I had no income, no insurance, and I was having disability issue. I had my knee surgeries. I was still recovering from that. I still had to get my mental health meds. I still had to go to other doctor's appointments for my diabetes and things like that. And then bam, no job, bam, no insurance. Um, it was it was a very difficult time for me. And now not everybody has an awesome support system. I do. I have a really good support system. Um, my husband, my sisters. It's terrifying. It took me 3 years to get disability. I had a very large income that just disappeared. Right. Absolutely. Going from an electrician to a disabled person, I mean, it hits you hard. It hits you real hard. Um, so yeah, terrified. I did apply for disability through a lawyer, and I know your situation's totally different than mine because you were a lot younger than me, Joe. Um, and I know they look at your age. That's a big deal with Social Security. They're like, "Well, you're young. Why can't you work?" You know, that kind of stuff. And they do give you a hard time. But what was I gonna say? I was gonna say, it is terrifying waiting for that to come in, being without insurance, being without um, an income. Thank God for having support systems. For having someone to support us. Um, so that was a form of grief, and I don't know. I don't remember exactly how I got over it. It was a difficult time for me. This was 3 years ago. 2024. We moved here in 2022. I lost the house in 2021. And that's when I lost my job and everything. So it has been for it has been 3 years for me too. I would say it took after we lost the house, once we moved into the new house and I felt better and I did get my disability, that's when I got my disability, I started to recover and feel better. But I didn't have any insurance for another year. So, well, I had it for like 3 months, the Medicaid, because I didn't have any income before the disability, so I had the Medicaid, and then the disability came in, and then I lost the Medicaid, and I had to wait for Medicare to kick in. But that year I have a really good doctor. I was able to work with her, and she gave me prescriptions for like 6 months. I didn't have to go back to her right away and things like that. And so she worked with me really well. We got the price of my prescriptions way down. And I would say, yeah, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But I don't remember a lot of. I have the ability, and I don't think it's a good thing, but when trauma occurs, I can just put it in a box and hide it away. But then what happens in years later, it comes back to bite me. But I don't remember a lot at that time. I don't. Now, when I went through the breakdown and I was at work, I remember all that. I remember all that. But the time, like I said, I remember I had insurance. I got my disability. I lost my insurance. But I think once the disability came, I was like, okay, we got the new house the next year. I worked with the mortgage company, did everything right. And, you know, so I felt real good about that. So I would say probably a year. It probably took a year. But it was all because the disability kicked in. That's when I started to feel better. I remember the breakdown I had in my car right before I quit my job. Yeah, a big breakdown is easy to remember, but for some reason I block out trauma. I think it's selective too, like I told you. Um, I don't know. I think it's just a coping mechanism from childhood. That's what I imagine that it is. So, but yeah, I remember the big breakdown when I had to actually go into rehab and all that. I remember that like it was yesterday. Yeah. And that was a huge for me. But for some reason, when I lost my job, um, it was a different loss. It was like I knew it was done. So that's when I think a lot of the grief came when I knew it was, done. After rehab, I could go back to work and stuff. But hello, you're back again. Oh my gosh. This guy. Um so let's go back and look at that again. See what else it says. Okay. Feeling like you can't accept what happened, denial. Feeling angry at the person who died or at yourself for still being alive. Physical distress, nausea, trouble breathing, lack of energy, and dry mouth. Emotional pain, guilt, confusion, apprehension about the future, and separation anxiety. Those are different feelings that you can have through your grief. Okay, let's go ahead and go a little further. What are you doing sniffing my ear? Let me show you this kitty. Why does he always want attention when I'm on the computer? He's like this when I'm on the phone too. I was on the phone with Jamie the other day and he wouldn't leave me alone. So, why are you being such a pain in my butt? Oh, his ears are pinned back. Why are you being a little meanie? I must have all the attention. I can't function without all the attention. All right, let's read some more. All righty. Here we go. Okay. How does grief affect people? Absolutely differently. We already discussed that. Grief can be exhausting and make it hard to do simple tasks. Exhausting for sure, absolutely. Grief can disrupt your sleep, appetite, and concentration. Grief can make it hard to make decisions. Grief can impact your immune system, which can lead to self-neglect or suicidal thoughts. Now, that I've never heard. Grief can impact your immune system, which can lead to. Now, I know that I don't understand why the immune system leads to self-neglect and suicidal thoughts. That part I don't get. But I know depression can lead to that. How do people cope with grief? People cope in different ways, and there's no right or wrong way to mourn. Some people find meaning and pleasure again. Some people find new wisdom and strength. Some people connect with friends and family or seek the support of spiritual leaders. Okay. Alrighty. Let's look for, let me get the next one. Where is it at? I can't. Okay, here we go. This is Cleveland Clinic, which is my favorite. Is it not working? There we go. Cleveland Clinic is one of the ones that I like. Remove this. You're getting down. Okay. Oops. He just jumped on my. I have a bunch of junk around, so. Stop screen. Then I need to hit present again. Share screen. We're going to do this Cleveland Clinic. Okay. Am I freezing up again? Okay. I just want to make sure I'm not freezing up again because it is, I don't know. It's really nice out. I don't know why my internet is acting wonky. Okay. Thank you, Joe. Okay. So let's see. It was, it's here, I think. Yeah. Cleveland Clinic. It's still here. All righty. So it is one of my favorite websites, but they do have really good information. And since I've been doing the Wellness Wednesdays, I often find something really, really good on this website, Cleveland Clinic. So let's go to this picture. All right, grief. The overview. This is, I don't imagine it's going to be the same as the AI definition. So let's see. Grief is the experience of coping with loss. Most of us think of grief as happening in the painful period following the death of a loved one, but grief can accompany any event that disrupts or challenges our sense of normalcy or ourselves. This includes the loss of connections that define us. That's exactly what we were just talking about too. Loss of connections that define us, our jobs, family, our homes, our just who we think we are as a person. So yeah, that is a very good one. I like that one. I'm gonna go over it again just because if I read it again, it might stick in my head. Grief is the experience of coping with loss. Now, it just says loss. It doesn't say any specific type of loss, just any loss. Most of us think of grief as happening in the painful period following the death of a loved one. And I think that's generally what people think grief is. They don't realize, and I think my therapist also helped me realize this, that I was grieving when I had my breakdown, that I was grieving. I don't remember. No, it wasn't then. No. I'm confused. So, but most people believe grief happens with the death of a loved one. But according to this, we're coping with a loss significant to us. Maybe not significant to other people, but significant to us. But grief can accompany any event that disrupts or challenges our sense of normalcy or ourselves. This includes the loss of connections that define us. I really like that definition. You may grieve the loss of, here we go, a family, a friend, family member, partner, or pet, a marriage, friendship, or another form of kinship, your home, neighborhood, or community, your job or career. You may grieve financial stability, a dream or a goal. And for a lot of us, we grieve our good health, yeah, your youth, your fertility. And I did go through a period of that because we didn't have any kids. You may also grieve your own loss of life as you prepare for death. For instance, people diagnosed with terminal illness often grieve no longer having the time to experience or achieve things they would have liked to. Okay. So yeah. So I think we started off correctly. Grief is different for everybody. And they explained in this article, I'm going to recommend this Cleveland Clinic article, that it's not just for the death of a loved one. There are many, many reasons to grieve. And say no one has passed away in your life. You're young, no one's passed away. So there may be other things you have grieved and you just don't realize it. And maybe you didn't deal with it, so you're having some issues now. Just keep that in mind if you're having some trouble with your mental health. There may be something that you haven't really gotten over that you thought, well, maybe it's something I don't need to get over. It was a simple thing to other people, but you didn't realize how important it was to you. Okay. Let's move on. Okay. Stages of grief. Now, this Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, the last time we did a series on grief, we talked about her. She wrote this book describing the 5 stages of grief. Now, there are 7 now. When was this written? 1969. So they've added a couple, and we'll check that out in a minute because we're going to do the private live next week. And then after that, we'll start the stages of grief. And we'll just go through them however long it takes us. So Elizabeth Kubler-Ross describes the 5 stages of grief in her book on death and dying. Come on up here, mister. I have the little humidifier, but I didn't have it up here. Sorry. Hopefully you can see the stages of grief right there. Oh, thank you, Joe. Okay. Joe says, I lost my dad in October and I'm still grieving. It's been a lot harder than I thought. I lost my best friend. And now, Joe, how we've been talking, how grief doesn't have there's no set time period. There's no set amount of grief. There's no, and somebody's going to say, haven't you gotten over it yet? Excuse me. I'm going to sneeze. I'm so sorry. I promised I wasn't going to do this again. And here I am. All right. Okay. Houston, we do have a problem. Thank you, Shelly. Hey, Brandy, how are you doing? I think she's talking about me, Joe. Do you have the flu, Brandy? Yeah, it sounds like the flu. She's not sure. Yeah. Uh-oh. Bad headache. That is weird, Shelly. This little bitty humidifier is just not doing the thing. All right. I'm going to have to get a big one for this room. I have one in the bedroom, one in the living room. I will be, Brandy. I'll be all right. It's really dry in this room. My my air cleaner's going. It's just dry. And that dry cough, man. You know, it's a cough where it's not phlegmy. Were you able to actually talk to a person, Shelly? Because they maybe are just closed for lunch. From like 2 to 2:30. Yeah. And also what I do to check hours sometimes too is I go online, I look up the business, and then if you're in Google and you go down, it'll say open or close, it'll show you hours. So no, it was a telephone answering service. check online. Because if it says it's still open, it may just be for lunch. You may be like the first appointment after lunch. Yeah, did you get a reminder call? That's a good one, Joe. As if you didn't, they might have mixed up your days. I have that MyChart thing, and I'm good with computers, so I know how to work the apps and stuff. I'm not sure if you do, Shelly, but it's so they did confirm. So they might just be at lunch. Okay, I think I'm getting better. Okay. Yeah, it might just be for lunch. My doctor, it's not on their thing, but they close from like 12:30 to 1 for lunch. So if you have the 1 o'clock appointment, today is the 29th, Shelly, is that the day they said on the Rhino call? It told the schedule. I really don't know then, Shelly. Is it a long drive to the doctor's? If it's a long drive, you may just want to call and reschedule. But if it's not too far, you might just want to go to your appointment and see. You know what I mean? If you're going to use a lot of gas, I would definitely call. I would definitely reschedule. But if they're at lunch, yeah. My appointment was at 2:45 on Wednesday. That's today. I don't think they do reminder calls a week before. I really don't know. You can always reschedule though, Shelly, if you need to. Is this a new office you're going to as well? That might be also what's confusing you. Okay. I think I'm done with the whole hacking situation. Let's see. Ooh, excuse me. Mm-hmm. No, it's not far. I would still try and go to the appointment if you can. Yeah. Okay, I need to quit coughing. We need to cover some material. I don't have any cough drops in here. That's enough. I should have brought cough drops in here. I don't use them a lot if I can avoid it because they have so much sugar. Oh. Well, that makes absolutely no sense, Shelly. That makes no sense at all. That's crazy to me. I don't understand it. Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's just weird. Mm. Mm. Um, I don't know. And it's after 2. So I had an office schedule me for an appointment, but the wrong city one time. They rescheduled it, no fault to me. Okay. Oh, maybe that's what happened. Did you just have to call them once they were open and tell them what happened? Yeah, it's very confusing. It's very confusing. If it's an important doctor's appointment, man. Or like I said, if it's new. Yeah, I wish I could help you, Shelly. I really don't know. But maybe it's the same thing as what Joe said, and you just got to call them tomorrow and tell them, like, you don't know what's going on and blah, blah, Right, right. Because that's just crazy. That makes no sense at all. So maybe they did schedule you at a totally different office than the one that you're supposed to be going to. Yeah, yeah. Hope that works out because that is just weird. Anyways, it's my life. This is what it is. Well, you get to spend more time with us, Shelly, and we love you. So they only have one office. It's getting weirder and weirder. I don't understand. Yeah, I don't understand, Shelly. So yeah, definitely give them a call. That makes absolutely no sense. None. Alrighty. So let's go. You can go ahead and keep talking, Shelly. I'm gonna go ahead and go to back to that article. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. I remember the name because it's such a long name and weird. It's the most well-known source for understanding the grieving process. But 1969, things have changed. There's got to be Kubler-Ross interviewed over 200 people with terminal illnesses. Through these conversations, she identified 5 common stages people experience as they grapple with the realities of impending death. Okay, I didn't know that. I knew she wrote a book, though. Although Kubler-Ross work focuses on grief responses from people who are dying, many use these stages to understand grief across multiple types of loss. Stages include denial. You may have difficulty accepting that the loss is real. I really need a lozenge. So, when they say denial, like the first 2 months I was disabled, I drank a lot. Oh yeah, thank God for Jason. He pulled me out of it. That's what the support system, the great support system. I'm sure I would have went down the same road if I hadn't already been to rehab. But yeah, that's one way that we deal with emotional trauma, emotional things. It's not the best coping mechanism, but it's something that a lot of people do. All right. So denial. So I don't know if I felt denial. I knew I had lost my job. I was sad that I had lost my job, but I don't think I was in denial. Now, I understand losing a loved one. Maybe I don't understand denial. Um, cough up that fur ball already. Just messing with you because, well, I can't. Yeah, and I don't know. But this is mouth. Let me show you. This is a dry mouth spray. You see now, I'm feeling better. Yeah, I just put some of this in my mouth, but this is almost gone. So I might as well. You know, I could be like one of the cats. Oh, it's horrible when they cough up a fur ball too. But maybe I'm not understanding denial. Maybe what I need to do is look up the definition of denial. Now, I know I've had friends pass away and you're in shock and you can't believe. I mean, one guy I worked with, he committed suicide and he was, that was the first person I ever knew that had done that. I was shocked. But this is the part the denial I need to get. Are you denying that you're in grief? Or are you, I'm not sure because I drew dry mouth first sometimes too because of the meds. Yeah. And I think that's contributing. Yeah. Yeah. Certain scents make me cough. Yeah. Like perfume. Yeah. I'm really sensitive to perfume. Really sensitive. And I have a ton of perfume samples. But yeah, so I'm going to look up denial and we're going to delve deeper into that because I know I lost my job. I know I can't go back to work because of my knees. I know, like when my pet passed away, I know my pet died. I know, like with a person, I feel like I'm going to, like, you'll do something and go, oh yeah, so-and-so. And then you'll remember, oh, they've passed away. So they're not going to be involved in whatever that is I was thinking of. So I guess I need to look through denial a little bit more. And what did it say denial was over here? It says you may have difficulty accepting the loss is real. And the same thing with the house. I knew it was real. Like before it happened, before I actually had to do the all the paperwork and stuff, I didn't want it to happen. But once I started doing the paperwork, I knew it was going to happen. So maybe I'm just not understanding denial. Maybe it's just today. I did take my medicine though. So denial of the what did it say again? You may have difficulty accepting that a loss is real. So I don't know if I ever have that. Are you guys, is it just me? Is it just me having trouble with this denial thing? Excuse me. But again, I said before, we don't go through all the stages of grief, everybody, and we don't go in a certain order. They used to think there was an order. There is no order. You can go through different stages at different times, and it can take as long as it takes. So, like you were talking about your dad passed away in October. That is going to take as long as it's going to take. And don't feel pressured to rush through it and to be okay. Because I got my shirt on. It's okay to not be okay. See, that was a little more productive than the dry cough. So, yes, everyone reacts differently. And your grief is not the same as Joe Schmo's grief over here or nosy neighbor over here. It's not the same. It's all going to be different. So, and you're going to go through different stages and you're going to grieve for different reasons. I guess that's the point today that I really want to press home, that don't expect it to be cookie cutter and don't expect it to be, okay, I'm going to go through stage 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 7, and I'm better now. It's all good. And that's not what, by the time you're done with all those, you're going to be like, I still feel like crap. What did I do wrong? So, yeah. So I think that's the point we want to press home today. It's different for everybody, different stages for everybody. And you may not grieve right away either after a loss. It may take some time. Maybe that's the denial part after the loss. It may take some time for it to just really sink in, and then you'll grieve. Like for like 6 months before I actually lost my job, before I filed for Social Security, I thought I was going back to work every single day. You couldn't tell me any different. I just needed to get the surgery. I'd be fine and I'd go back to work. My mom has been gone since 1983 and it still hurts. Right. And it's still going to. I mean, your mom, that's and Joe's dad. I mean, that's, I can't even imagine that. I imagine though that it's going to dull a little bit with time. Right after my dad died, it was unreal until Christmas happened. Then it really hit home. Okay. So I must be, I don't know. I don't know. I think, and that's another thing. Tell me your opinion on this. I think that, like you said, Christmas came and he wasn't there, and you're like, he's not here. So what was my point? I had a point. Funerals. When I was a child, my family never took me to a funeral, and I believe they think they were protecting me. But as I got older, I was afraid to go to funerals. I didn't want to. And then my grandpa passed away. That was my first relative that was close to me that died. So I went to that funeral. And I think I was numb through the whole thing because I was only like 18. What sucks is that you start forgetting things like the way the sound and the voice of how they smell. Yeah, right. And in 1983 is a long time ago too. Unless you kept something of hers. Like I have a knitting bag from my grandma. And when I open it, I still have it. I have it put away. But when I open it, it smells like her perfume. Because she crocheted. That it's a crochet bag. And I was like, when I opened it the one day, I was like, oh my God, that's grandma. And I understand what you're saying, how they smell. And I didn't open that bag since she had passed. And I don't remember exactly. I'm really bad at the year thing. She passed a good, I don't know. I was still working. 2008, when everybody was laid off, I spent a lot of time with her. And then she passed away probably a year after that, so 2009. And so I hadn't opened that bag from her. I had her stuff, but I hadn't opened that bag from her since she had passed until I moved. And when I opened it and I smelled that smell, I knew, I was like, that's my grandma. That's her. So I understand exactly what you're saying. I use her favorite room, which is Cody Wild Musk. And that keeps you close to her, Shelly. Is that correct? Because that's what, when I smell that smell, that's what I was like, yeah, that's grandma. Because she was more lovey, like huggy and with me than my actual parents. So I remember her perfume because I was more in contact with her. Yeah. I was more in contact with her when I was little, older, and things like that. And but she wasn't like super like PDA, what is that? Public displays of affection. But she would hug me, or I would sit next to her on the couch, and you just would remember that smell. especially when I was in my teens. It's the only perfume you'll use. Right. You said you were sensitive to scents, so that's probably the only one that actually brings you comfort. The other ones just irritate you. Yeah. Yeah. So there is that. Um and so I understand what you're saying, Joe, that at Christmas time is when it actually hit you. Um so like I was saying, maybe denial is like I didn't think I was losing my job. I didn't think I had the surgery. I still was having difficulty recovering. I was still in a lot of pain. I was like, I'm still going back to work. I'm still going back to work. And then finally that 6 months of disability was up, and they said you either have to come back or you have to quit or they're going to fire you or whatever. So it was that situation. I say fired, but basically I just stopped going to work, and they were like, okay, you're not an employee anymore. So um and I did get my job back. So I wasn't fired. I quit, I guess. So I did get my job back. But they wouldn't give me insurance. So, and I couldn't go back to work because of my physical limitations. If you had any type of, what is that called when your doctor says you can only lift 10 pounds and at work you're supposed to be able to lift 50, you know what I mean? What's that called? They wouldn't let you come back if you had anything like that. Like I couldn't climb up a ladder. I couldn't go back to work because I had that limitation. Until that limitation was lifted, I was unable to go back to work, and they wouldn't give me insurance back until I went back to work. So I couldn't go back to work. They wouldn't give me insurance. So then I finally got my disability. So I'm assuming that they eventually put me as no longer an employee. In the beginning, thinking you're going back to work is denial for sure. It's hard to recognize sometimes. Yeah, I think that makes more sense to me than when my grandma was sick. Okay, now I have a memory. When she was in the hospital sick, the very last time she was in the hospital, just she died in the hospital. So they took her to the hospital. She was out of it. She was conscious. She didn't recognize us all. She thought we were different people. And they started talking to me about hospice. And I was like, hospice? What do you mean hospice? She's she looks fine. And they were like, yeah. And so that took me at least a couple of days to be like, she's going to die. But then when she actually passed, I was like, okay. So I was in denial that she was going to die. Yeah. But once she did, I I grieved, but yeah, so I did do that. Yeah. So I have been in denial before. So I'm still going to look that up as to where it applies to grief, because I'm still not clear, but I have done that before. Someone has passed, agree, been like, she's going to be fine. She's talking, she's fine. And they were like, no, they set up hospice and she never made it home. So, and even my sister, who is like always in denial, she was like, yeah, Crystal, I don't think. And I cried all the way through the funeral. I think I finally, by the end of the funeral, I had stopped crying. So that was another thing. I think funerals are an important part for those of us that are living, not for those who have passed away. Because my grandma didn't want to have a funeral. And I said this funeral is not for you. And this was a talk we had prior, years and prior to her passing. Um, I had said she didn't want to be shown. She didn't want people coming looking at her and saying they loved her when they didn't really even like her and blah, blah. She had a lot of mental health issues that were unresolved. So she had a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, and she was just kind of a grumpy lady. But to me, she wasn't. But like, she didn't really like people. So I probably get that from her as well. But we were very close. And so I think a funeral is important in the grieving process. How do you guys feel about that? Because I And I think that it's okay to bring kids to a funeral as well, because that's when it starts. You have to see that that person, that's like, if I didn't see the guy that committed suicide, I kept thinking he was there. So maybe that was my form of denial with him, was that I kept thinking, oh yeah, he's, because I never saw him. uh he didn't have a funeral, he had a memorial with a picture, and it was just, it wasn't the same. It just wasn't the same. And even my grandma's brother came late to the funeral, and she was cremated. She wanted to be cremated, there was no question about it. But he didn't get to see her, and he was really sad, and they weren't close, they didn't keep in contact. The brother that she was close with had passed away before she had. This other brother lived in the same state, maybe even, I think he even lived in the same city as us. I think he, but they never, he didn't really get along. I told Jason, if my mom's alive when I die, then do a casket funeral. If she's gone, to do whatever he wants to do. Right. It's not for us, the funeral, it's for our family members, and it's to give them closure. Because I really remember him dying, and just not, and I don't think I had closure from his death because I didn't get to see him. And he was a guy that popped in. He was at work, but he popped in, and he would just, hang out with us at lunch, or just say hi while we were on a job, and how you doing and stuff like that. And he was just funny, and a good guy. And that when he took his own life, um, and we didn't see him in the funeral for many, many months after that, you would think he was going to pop in. You would think he was going to, you know what I mean? And so that, I think, would be my form of denial. But yeah, the funeral, I think, is important, because when my husband's father passed away, and his mother as well, the kids were at the funeral. So at first, when they did the family viewing, they were sad, and you had to explain to them that Papa wasn't going to be like available anymore, but that he was going to heaven because they're Christian. And by the end of the day, the kids are just playing. And I think, though, even though does it sound, I don't know. I think, though, because they were playing and he was there, and they knew he was in the casket, and then he wasn't, that gave them that closure that I don't think when I was a child I necessarily got, because I wasn't allowed to go to funerals until I was like 18. So it made me afraid of funerals. But again, I agree with you, Joe. If it's for them, it's not for us. What they need to do, they should do. And I told my grandma that. So we had a 1-day funeral. Everybody got together, we talked about her and things like that, but she was cremated. And before she was cremated, some people got to go see her. I saw her at the hospital, so I didn't go see her before she was cremated. And he didn't even come to the hospital or anything. He came late, and he was upset, and we were like, well, I don't know what we can do about it. But it wasn't my job. My mom never or my mom contacted him too late, or I don't know. I just know that he was very upset to not see her body. And I don't want to sound gruesome, but I think it's important for us to see that, so we can, in our mind, say, this person has passed away. We've seen that. And I think that gives us closure, and it's a healthy way for us to deal with death. That's my opinion. I am not a doctor or a psychologist. You guys know this. I just wonder how you feel about that stuff. So, and Shelly, I missed a couple. With me and my ex-mother-in-law passing, because of the way I found out, I have a lot of anger. Okay. Yeah. I let my anger override it. Yep. But it's hard when you really cared for someone, and you didn't, like I told you just about my her brother. Hey Zach, I got sent home from work due to weather. Oh, what kind of weather you got going on up there? We're talking about grief today. And we were just talking about the way you find out. Um, and it's hard not to be angry, right, Shelly? It's hard not to be angry. He was upset, but he didn't, do anything. He did stay and talk to my mom for a little bit, but they were not real close. Snow, stupid snow. I'm over it. Well, hopefully in a few days or a week or so, you'll get this 30 some degrees. We've got 35 degrees. The snow melted. So, yeah, I'm over the snow too. How are you doing today, Zach? We're talking about grief. And then next week, we're going to have the private live. And I know you work, but if you get a chance, you might want to come check it out. It's just us hanging out on StreamYard. And I felt bad, Shelly, that I didn't really know him because, like I said, excuse me, they weren't close, but I felt bad for him that he didn't get to see her. So we had pictures and, things like that. I think he may have had some regret. When someone passes, you always think, oh, there's time. We can make up. There's time. We can make up, or you just are stubborn, which my grandma and her family, her one brother, the one that she didn't get along with, that's why they didn't get along, because they were both real stubborn. So, yeah. So maybe he thought he had time, and you just never know. You never know. So he was very upset, and I did feel bad about that, but I mean, he was never around. I never thought about him. So you missed it, Zach. I coughed for like half an hour. I'm doing better now. Okay, what time? We got 2:46. We got 15 more minutes. Let's go back and see what's left in that article. Okay, denial. Anger. Now that I know. I'm very familiar with anger. You may direct anger at multiple sources, including people who couldn't save a loved one, God, yourself, or even no one in particular. Okay, so I'm very familiar with anger. How many of us are familiar with anger? Yeah, that's one that I know well. I was a very angry teenager, young adult. I would say into my late 20s, mid 20s, and then I started to be more cognizant of. I became more empathetic, sympathetic. Not sure why. I think just one day I just woke up and said, this is just not a way to live, to be angry all the time. It just, it's not a way to live. I was so angry at my friend for overdosing when we were 21. I'm not sure I've ever been that mad. Yeah, that could cause a lot of anger. Yeah. My niece, our family went through a situation like that, and you feel so helpless. Just so helpless. And there's a lot of shoulda, woulda, coulda in that too, right? I grieve in private. I understand that, Zach. We're just talking about everybody doesn't grieve the same way. And everybody doesn't grieve about the same thing. There are many, many different things you can grieve about. We talk loss of a job, loss of a home, loss of a loved one, loss of a pet, even a loss of a vehicle. It's maybe not the same as the loss of a loved one, but there is a grieving process that has to happen in those instances. Loss of a relationship, like you're not friends anymore. Hey, how you doing, Lady Free Flow? How are you? We're talking about grief today. I'm so glad you're here. I was a little mad when my brother passed away. I asked God, why did he take my brother so young? And that, Zach, that is a good question. That is a really good question. We were best friends, and I didn't even know he did drugs. I was mad at him myself for not knowing, and God for taking him so young. Absolutely. Oh, yes, still grief. Yeah. Yeah. Hello, Lady Free Flow. Welcome. She used to be Lady Spellbreaker, you guys remember? And she would come visit us. So tell us how you're doing today. How are you doing today? We just started, we're just talking about the definition of grief today. We covered a little bit about the stages, but we're going to do some more in-depth stages and talk about grief. It's good to see you, Lovey. Oh, I see you still got that one too. Yeah, it's good to see you. I was mad at myself for some words I had said the night before to him and why God took him. Yeah, I think a lot of people, it's like I was logged into the wrong account, but you popped up. Oh, I'm so glad you came. We're so glad to see you. Yep. She brings positivity and light. She really does. Yeah, I think that happens with a lot of people. That's anger right there. You're mad at yourself. And then don't we sometimes go, what could I have done to prevent this? Or could I have prevented this? We take on a lot of guilt ourselves. I told him I hated him. I regret those words to this day. And you didn't know, Zach, and you were young. You were a young kid. It's so important to stop and process grief. It's as important to process it as to let go. I agree. Yeah, I agree. And we're talking about, I don't know if you agree, Lady Spellbreaker, but like how grief is not one thing. Grief is not the same for everybody. Everybody doesn't go through all the stages of grief. And everybody grieves different things and everyone grieves differently. So there's 7 stages. You may only go through 3 or 4 of those stages, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's no cookie cutter, I'm going to go through these 7 stages and then I'm going to be great. That's not how grief works. You can't just work the book and then be great. So yeah. So welcome back, Shelley. Have you heard of induced after-death communication therapy? There is a book by Alan Boatkin. There's a book. I have not. Induced after-death communication therapy. No, I haven't. I will Google that though after. Your grief can be the loss of a cataract lens. Absolutely. I agree. There are many, many things that we grieve. It will be 11 years in April. I can't believe it. Yeah. Stages suck, especially if you have stage fright. Shelley, bring in the comedy. Let me write that book down. Alan Botkin. Induced after death communication therapy. Alan uses EDMR therapy for veterans with war trauma, death, guilt, anger. So much healing can come from induced. I'm going to definitely check that book out. That's what I say to Joe about my brother. I probably cried every day for 2 years, mad at myself for not knowing. I told myself, if I was a good friend, I would have known and I would have saved him. Right? Exactly. And I like I was talking about the friend who committed or who died by suicide. It's not committed, it's died by suicide. Um he There were no signs. He was always happy and smiling. Now, in private or with people who were closer to him, he probably did seem depressed and they knew. But those of us that he just, he just visited once, we didn't know. We thought he was happy. So there was a lot of shock and like, oh my gosh, I didn't even notice the signs. I didn't even notice he was in pain. He hid it so well. And only the people that were really, really close to him, and there were very few, knew what he was going through. Let's see. We have to learn to ride the waves through emotions. Yes. I'm sorry, Shelly. I cried on Christmas Day because I was missing him, but that's how I grieve. And that's what Lady Spellbreaker is saying. It comes in waves. You have to learn to ride the waves through the emotions. So many questions after a shocking event, suicide or overdose. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So I think the main points for today, it's 2:54. So before we say bye-bye, is that grief is not the same for everyone. The 7 stages of grief are different for everyone. You may not go through all 7 stages. You may grieve something that no one else grieves, and that's okay. We grieve different things. It's not always the death of a loved one or just the death of a loved one. It can be many, many things. Did I get that? So there's no cookie cutter grief way to get through it. And that's what we're going to cover next week. We're going to have the private live, and then after that we'll do the stages of grief. Like I said, my mom has been gone since 83 and I still grieve her passing. Yes. I bottle in my emotions. I tend not to let people see it. Yeah. I found my baby girl, Kayla, on the floor, cold and blue from opiates laced with fentanyl on 9/2/2020. I still break down, sobbing 4 years later. Just keep doing your best. Thank you so much, Lady Spellbreaker, because that is all we have to do. We just have to keep doing our best. Very good topic. Thank you, Lady Spellbreaker. We really needed to hear from you today. I appreciate you coming so much. Yeah. And there is no time limit. She said 2020. Zach has said it's been 11 years. Shelly said her mom's been gone since 83. There is no time limit for grief. And I really like the it's waves. It's waves. Because it really is. Something will hit you. Like I was real close with my grandma. So something will hit you and you will just it'll be a wave of emotion. It'll be sadness or anger or whatever, but with my grandma it's mostly sadness, like I miss her. But it'll come out of nowhere. So I don't know if we ever stop the process. We don't stop missing that person ever, I don't think. And argument 4 in the book of the 4 arguments is always do your best. Exactly. Big hugs and so much healing sent to all you beautiful souls. So very sorry for all of your losses. Thank you so much, Lady Spellbreaker. Yeah, so I really want to put that out there that we all grieve differently. Our time limits are different. Don't ever let anyone say to you that you have grieved long enough, because no one has the right to say that. Exactly. Get over it is the worst sentence. Is that a whole sentence? Get over it. I think so. Is the worst sentence in the English language. Because nobody gets over a lot of stuff. And I don't think you ever get over. I always say you get through something. I don't know if you get over it, but you get through it. So the waves of grief that come, you get through them. You don't get over them, you get through them. When they come, you deal with them and you get through them. If you have to be sad for a day, be sad. Right? So yeah, I like the waves. I like that term, waves. And I've said before in some of our other Wellness Wednesdays, we get through things. Depression, we get through depression. We may not get over it, but we get through it. Yeah. Yes, get through each moment. Yeah, exactly. I read the sadness card in my new moon oracle readings. We must allow ourselves to feel it, release it, and keep healing through it all. My sister has said that to me so many times. That's why she's blocked on Facebook. Right. I think it's horrible. Get over it. Where did that come from? And why do people say that? They say it for a lot of stuff. but you are not me, and you don't know my inner emotional. I don't think anybody knows us 100%. Not even my husband knows 100%. And then when that grief hits you, that's always unexpected, and you have to deal with it at the time. Go through the waves of grief. Take good care of yourself and be easy with yourself during grief. Absolutely. I agree. So it's 3 o'clock now, and I think we had a great Wellness Wednesday. I hope that this was helpful. And thank you everybody for coming. And I will see you next Wednesday is going to be the private live, and I will put that in our group chat. So and if you want to be added to the group chat, you can you can message me on Instagram if you're not in it. You guys have a great weekend. Yeah, Shelly, she does a lot of stuff on Instagram. Isn't it Instagram, Lady Spellbreaker? She's not really on YouTube anymore. You too, Joe. Have a blessed day. Love you guys. I will talk to you next week. Message me. Misha's. She's going through the 22 major arcana of the tarot decks too. Yes, I did go live. I had to take a break. I'm back. Okay, great. So that's her YouTube handle right there, Shelly. So you can hook up with her. She's awesome. Love her. Been following her for a long time. And she's a really great lady. That's awesome that you are back too. Okay, I gotta let you guys go. It's after 3. We will see you next Wednesday in the private, and then we'll do the stages of grief after that. And you guys have a great week. I will see you later. Bye, everybody.